5 years of journey of devoted service for the people and great transformations. This is book one. Road for National Prosperity indicated political and cultural events held. Foreign Languages Publishing House, DPR, Korea, 2026. The period of the 8th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea 2021-2025 was a historic one, when there took place events noteworthy in the course of the development of the party that advanced the socialist cause victoriously, recording the longest history in power. Kim Jong-un, General Secretary of the WPK and President of the State Affairs of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, put forward the idea of the comprehensive development of socialism and the ways and means for its implementation, and other original and scientific lines and policies, including the Regional Development 20 by 10 policy, so that Korean-style socialism could follow a victorious road, achieving leap forwards and transformations in the face of all manner of challenges and difficulties. The respected Comrade Kim Jong-un set out the 5-point party building line in the new era to build up the party as an ever victorious party, which is filled with the unique political climate with oneness of ideology and leadership as the core, which has achieved organizational and ideological unity, which is strong in discipline, and which is sound in working style. Having entrusted the young with the flank of the gigantic struggle for creation, he led them to form a large legion of patriots who fully demonstrate their youthful mettle and enthusiasm in all sectors of socialist construction and shape the bright future of the socialist country by their own efforts. He gave meticulous guidance over the preparations for the celebrations of the 80th anniversary of the party and various other political events, so that they could be held on the highest level, demonstrating the dignity and politico-ideological might of the state. In the course of attaining enormous successes in the face of unprecedented trials and difficulties, the Korean people were more firmly convinced that the guidance of the WPK, led by Kim Jong-un, is always based on science and leads them to victory. And they have now turned out as one in the struggle to attain the new long-term goal set forth by the 9th Congress of the party. And in this, over the next course of the next while, we'll be covering struggle program for comprehensive development of socialism indicated, ushering a heyday of strengthening the whole party for the development of the youth movement, advancing the idea of training reserve revolutionaries, and political cultural events held in splendor. I might be happy, Mana. I might be happy. Struggle program for the comprehensive development of socialism indicated. The 8th Congress of the WPK was held in Pyongyang in January 2021. At the Congress, Kim Jong-un made a scientific analysis of the trend of the developing revolution and demands of the prevailing subjective and objective situations, and on the basis set out a fresh struggle line and strategic and tactical policies for achieving a radical advance in socialist construction. At the subsequent plenary meetings of the Central Party Committee, he indicated the strategic and tactical policies for powerfully advancing the comprehensive development of socialism, and the ways to this, and instilling in all the people infinite confidence and soaring courage. 8th Congress of the WPK held in splendor in January 2021. Look at that. DPRK's got some damn nice aesthetics. 8th Congress of the WPK. Great Struggle Program, leading socialist construction to a fresh victory. In the report, clarifying the strategy for the economic sector in the coming 5 years, Kim Jong un said that party's economic strategy at the corresponding stage was the one of readjustment and reinforcement aimed at putting the national economy on a normal track so that it could operate smoothly without being affected by any external influences, and that it would be achieved by reconstruction and readjusting the economic working system and the organic relations among the economic sectors, and pushing ahead with the cementing its self supporting foundations. These photos. Again, the damn aesthetics, comrades. DPRK wins, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. There's people holding up they're there holding up the party constitution. Kim Jong un elected as General Secretary of the WPK on January 10th, 2021. The 8th Congress of the WPK is a reflection of the unanimous desire and wish of all the delegates and other members of the WPK members, people, service personnel across the country decided to elect Kim Jong un as General Secretary of the WPK. Kim Jong un guides the first plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK in January 2021. The Army People joint meetings held in different parts of the country to carry out the decisions of the 8th Congress of the WPK. So here's then the rally, service personnel and people, workers, etc., all across the country, holding rallies, celebrating the 8th Congress and pledging to carry out the program. The second plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK held in February 2021. The second plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK was held in February 8th and 11th, 2021. At the meeting, Kim Jong un delivered the speech titled, On Carrying Out the Tasks of the First Year of the 5-Year Plan, advanced by the 8th Congress of the Party. The meeting examined the year's work plan in detail and issued it as a decision of the WPK Central Committee. Especially, it took important measures for vigorously pushing ahead with economic construction and providing the people with more stable and improved living conditions, despite the continuing emergency epidemic prevention situation. We are indeed authoritarian in here. Keep in mind, Sinchel has a hammer. For a reason. Again, with the aesthetics, this is the second plenary meeting here that we're looking at. And then we have the first meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in June 2021. The first meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK a consultative meeting of senior officials of the Central Committee of the WPK and provincial party committees, and the second and large meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in June 2021, set forth important tasks for promoting the struggle to stabilize and improve the economic work and people's living standard, and bringing about a fresh turn in the overall work of national defense by enhancing the party's leadership role remarkably. Consultative meeting of the senior officials of the party committee of the WPK and provincial party committees, held in June 2021, here on the left. Look at this. I love the portraits of Kim Jong Il and Kim Il Sung behind them here in this room. This fucking room is awesome. What the hell? And then here on the right is the second enlarged meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in June 2021. And then the third plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in June 2021. Mary Yee, welcome in. Indeed, I am still streaming. The third plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK was held in Pyongyang between June 15th and June 18th, 2021. Put as major agenda items were the meeting were reviewing the execution of major state policies for the first half of the year and taking relevant measures, directing all efforts to farming, thoroughly coping with the protracted nature of the emergency epidemic prevention situation, stabilizing and improving the people's living standards, and improving the strengthening of the party's child care policy, and others. Welcome in, Alberta Socialist. Great to see you, comrade. Kim Jong-un said at the meeting that no revolutionary work is more crucial than bringing up the children, the future of the country, healthy, stressing that it is the most important policy of the party and the state to provide them with more important conditions for their care, even by spending a huge sum of money, whatever the amount. He stressed that it should be established as a party's major policy to supply all the children across the country with nourishing food, including dairy produce, at the state's expense. Continuing that it was the core agenda item of the meeting to take decisive enforcement measures for immediately solving the urgent problems most concerned and looked forward by the people. He delivered a special order that he personally signed with his sincerity to make even a small contribution to stabilizing the people's living. The meeting discussed on improving and strengthening the party's child care policy and adopted a relevant resolution with full support and unanimous approval. And then later, the third enlarged meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in September 2021. The meeting studied and discussed the task of thoroughly implementing the party's policy on land management, taking more thoroughgoing epidemic prevention measures as the global health crisis was getting worse day by day, increasing the production of consumer goods, and successfully winding up the year's farming. And then we had an important event, the 5th session of the 14th Supreme People's Assembly of the DPRK, held in September. The Supreme People's Assembly, of course, is the highest legislative body of the DPRK. At the session, Kim Jong un made a policy speech titled, On the Orientation of Present Struggle for the Fresh Development of Socialist Construction. In the policy speech, he said, the most crucial task facing the government of the Republic is to prove the new development of our style of socialist construction with practical achievements and substantial changes much waited for and welcomed by the people from the first year in implementing the 5-year plan. It should further consolidate its people oriented nature in all fields of state affairs. Remove all things not revolutionary, not militant, and backward. And bring about fresh innovation, bold creation, steady progress on all fronts of socialist construction. Again, I gesture towards the aesthetics. Then in December, the 5th meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK. The meeting referred to the fact that the work of hitting the major policy-oriented targets set up at the 8th Congress of the WPK had been pushed forward with all year round under the guidance of the party Central Committee in the face of difficulties in the country's economic development, and stressed the need to consolidate the foundation for implementing the 5-year plan by working out a plan for the new year so that it could be dynamic, progressive, scientific, and detailed. Now we're coming up to the end of the first year of this 5-year plan period. The 4th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in December. The 4th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee, the WPK, was held in Pyongyang between December 27th and 31st, 2021. At the meeting, Kim Jong un made a concluding speech titled, On the Orientation of the Work of the Party and State, 2022. In the speech, he reviewed and analyzed the work of the first year and the implementation of the decisions of the 8th Congress of the WPK, and clarified the central orientation of the work of the party and the state for 2022, as well as the principal tasks and struggle policies for a fresh development of socialist construction. He delivered a report titled, Let Us Open a New Great Era of Our Style Socialist Rural Development. He clarified the goal of socialist rural construction and the major immediate task, calling for putting the country's agriculture on a definite upward trend and opening up a new great era of effecting drastic development of our style socialist countryside under the uplifted slogan for a new victory of socialist rural construction. Saying that supplying school uniforms and things to the students across the country at state expense is a consistent policy of the party and the state. He set forth a task for supplying all the students with quality uniforms and bags of new forms without exception, and took an important measure of the Party Central Committee for implementing it. The enlarged meeting of the 5th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK, held in June 2022, is next. Now into summer of next year. The enlarged meeting of the 5th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK was held on June 8th and the 10th of 2022. Kim Jong un made a concluding speech on the second agenda item, titled On the Interim Review of the Implementing of Major Party and State Policies for 2022 and Measures. In the speech, he indicated the clearer struggle guidelines and scientific ways for making definite project in the year 2022, an important stage in implementing of the 5-year plan. In the report on the third agenda item, he clarified the strategic and tactical plans for finally defusing the malignant epidemic crisis, restoring stability, and vigorously promoting the building of the country's capabilities for coping with any pandemic disease and crisis. As you can see, DPRK actually took the pandemic seriously, perhaps more than any other country on the planet. The seventh session of the 14th SPA of the DPRK held in September 2022 now. So, again, the highest legislative body. Kim Jong un made a historic policy speech at the 7th session of the 14th Supreme People's Assembly of the DPRK on September 8th, 2022. The ordinance of the SPA on the DPRK's policy on nuclear forces was adopted at the session with unanimous approval. The adoption on the law is a clear manifestation of the DPRK government's independent resolution and will for defending the sovereignty and national interests, to thoroughly safeguard the fundamental interests of the Korean Revolution and people's safety, and an important political event which provided reliable legal weapon contributing to peace, prosperity on the Korean Peninsula, the region, and the rest of the world. And there's the ordinance of the SPA of the DPRK on the DPRK's nuclear forces right here in the top right. The enlarged meeting of the 6th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK held in December. The enlarged meeting of the 6th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK was held between December 26th and the 31st. At the meeting, Kim Jong un said that it was necessary to define the year 2023 as the year of making a big stride in the development of the national economy, a year of attaining key goals and increasing production, carrying out the strategy of readjustment and reinforcement, and improving the people's living standards, all on the basis of the experience, lessons, and substantial advance accumulated through the stubborn struggle in 2022, and said it is the main task of economic work to mainly complete the plan for readjustment and reinforcement decided by the party's Congress, while prepping up production in all sectors and units. I love these pictures. Kim Jong un made a report on the 5th agenda item on the 5-point line of party building in the new era, expressing his belief that the WPK would be able to consistently maintain and strengthen its character and nature and discharge its sacred mission and responsibility for the people forever when the 5-point orientation based on the theory of party building in the new era was confirmed as the line of the party building of the WPK. He courteously proposed to the plenary meeting to formally define the party building orientation in the new era, which the will of the whole party is integrated as the party line. And now we're into February and March, comrades. At the enlarged meeting of the 7th plenary. Should I do this like a sports announcement, maybe? I see people are not liking the Kim Jong Un gooning here. Come on, We went from like 68 to 60. That the enlarged meeting of the 7th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK held in February and March 2023. We gotta make it more like a UFC event. The enlarged meeting of the 7th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK took place between March 26th and March 1st, 2023. At the meeting, Kim Jong-un put forth the plan for ushering in a great new era of rural prosperity as required by the stage of comprehensive development of socialism. And put forward important tasks for making a new leap forward in bringing about a heyday of the development of the self-supporting economy. Is that helpful? The pictures are wonderful. Everybody go follow my comrade Anna. Can't believe people are leaving in DPRK Juches Day. Come on. The enlarged plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK held in June 2023. The enlarged meeting of the 8th plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the Central Committee, the WPK, took place between June 16th and June 18th. The meeting made an interim review of the work of implementing major policies for 2023 and discussed and decided on the policy orientation issues to be addressed without fail, and further spurred in the advance in the second half of the year. All right, well, we'll end it with this year, I guess. And we'll do our game. The 16th meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK was held in December 2023. A meeting heard the report of Kim Jong-un's official goodwill visit to the Russian Federation and warmly congratulated him on his successful foreign tour, arranging the work to actively implement the constructive measures for further strengthening the traditional DPRK-Russia good neighborly and cooperative ties, and activating the bilateral relations in all fields, and developing them onto a new high level. Kim Jong-un stressed the need to strengthen close contacts and cooperation among the relevant fields of the two countries, and expand and develop cooperation in every field in an all-around way, and thus make substantial contribution to the promotion of the well-being of their people. And then the 17th meeting of the Political Bureau of the 8th Central Committee of the WPK was held in December. And that meeting discussed the issue of convening the 9th plenary, the WPK. The Political Bureau appreciated that brilliant and encouraging successes had been achieved in attaining the major goals of the party and the state policies set forth at the 8th Congress of the WPK and the plenary meetings of the WPK Central Committee in 2023. Thanks to the wise leadership of Kim Jong-un and the great enthusiasm of all party members and other people, and discuss the major agenda items to be brought up at the 9th plenary meeting of the 8th WPK Central Committee.